This looks like a job for Superman.
I can't imagine the excitement that kids must have had at that moment when Superman was brought to the screen.
Lois Lane, Clark Kent.
All your favorite heroes were on the big screen, 30 feet tall.
It was literally the comic book come to life.
Serials originated basically at the dawn of cinema, and they went from 1936 to 1956.
Now, movie serials were chapters that every week kids would go to the movie theater and see an ongoing story. They would end with a cliffhanger.
Who will be lured into this flaming trap?
Cliffhanger came from the early days when there were heroines like Pearl White who were literally hanging on a cliff just as the scene ended, and you had to wait till next week to find out what happened.
For the stirring answers, see Irresistible Force.
It was a way of getting you to come back to the theater for 12 or 15 weeks straight.
They were generally shown on Saturday afternoon. And if you were a kid back then, it was your favorite part of the whole movie-going experience.
Well, Superman was a natural for the movie serials. Flash forward to 1947, the movie serial producer Sam Katzman acquired the rights, and in 1948, Superman was brought to the screen.
In the far reaches of space, like a pinpoint at infinity, there once was a tiny blue star.
Just imagine, you had been reading for 8, 9 years, the adventures. You had been hearing this on the radio, and then to see Superman embodied in the person.
That's about 2,000 miles away. I can be there in 30 seconds.
I first saw at the theater, and I saw the trailer for it, and it just blew my mind when I saw that. Holy cat, Superman is live coming to the screen, woohoo!
When it was announced, of course, the call went out for actors to play Superman. Sam Katzman went out to reportedly 50, 60, 70 people to try to find who would play Superman.
There was never a human being that ever played Superman before. And I never even thought, as I was a kid, that would ever even happen. Like, who are they going to find to play Superman? Who are they going to find that looks like that? Who are they going to find?
Well, they thought, well, what about one of the other kings of motion picture serials? There's a guy named Kirk Alyn who had appeared in a number of movie serials in the 40s. Audiences loved him, and he would really look like the Superman in the comics. He's got the little curl at the top of his forehead. He's got the physique. He's got that athletic ability. Kirk Alyn was a dancer, and he was an athlete as well as a Broadway actor and a movie serial idol.
Superman.
When they found Kirk, they found the perfect guy. I mean, he really looked it, he acted it.
Kirk played Superman pretty much the way he was portrayed in the comic books of that time.
Up, and away!
And he also made a distinction between Clark Kent and Superman.
Help Gladys with her lovelorn collar. It may give you another headache.
Yes, Chief.
When he did Clark Kent, he was totally different. I mean, he was great. He was kind of like scared of everything and all this. It was a real turnabout. And then, of course, when he did this, looks like a job for it.
Superman.
He would lower that voice, and boy, you just believed him.
When Kirk Alyn was hired to play Superman, the studio made an announcement that said, we tried, we checked all over, we couldn't find anybody to play the role of Superman. No actor could really play that role, so we've hired the real Superman. Well, to keep that mystery up, you don't see Kirk Alyn starring as Superman. He really didn't get billing on his own films. Just kept that suspension of disbelief with the kids.
Yes, this is Lois Lane, Demon Reporter.
I got the part. I had actually worked for Sam Katzman before in some other series, and so when my agent came by, with the little opening thing with all the girls in it, and oh yeah, no, she'll be fine, she can talk.
These newfangled typewriters.
It was really that simple. In fact, I had to buy a Lois Lane comic book to find out what she looked like, because I didn't know.
I'm Clark Kent, and you're?
Jimmy Olsen, the planet's best cub reporter.
Jimmy Olsen was played by a really interesting actor named Tommy Bond. Audiences may remember him from the old Our Gang films. He played Butch, one of the tough guys.
Hey, wait for me!
At the time those serials were made, Jimmy was not that big of a character in the comic books. So Tommy Bond's portrayal is pretty much his own.
Yes, sir? Jimmy, stay here. We'll let Lois and Kent cover this. They might as well start learning how to work together.
Pierre Watkin was a well-known character actor, had more than 100 credits to his name, who played Perry White, who was then the managing editor of the Daily Planet.
It's a case of mass hysteria, and that's the way I want it played. Now get out of here, all of you.
All the people in the thing were great. You had in the first show, you had the Spider Lady. Wow, now there's a cool thing.
With that weapon, I'll be the most powerful person in the world.
Carol Foreman, great character as Spider Lady, with a lair with a spider web behind her.
And she's all dressed up in this slinky black thing, which is kind of racy for those days.
This is Luthor. Come in, number one.
Lex Luthor, played by Lyle Talbot.
I hope you have a plan. Oh, of course. Have you ever known me to be without one?
Lyle Talbot made an excellent Luthor. I think it was probably my favorite Luthor of all of them, all the ones that followed, because he was the one that was closest to the comic book character.
The thing was, in the serial, what everybody wanted to see, when is Superman going to fly? How are they going to do this?
Up, and away!
At first, they tried to have Kirk suspended from a breastplate on wires. And unfortunately, the wires showed. So they went to animation.
It was very clever, I got to say, but I was put back a little bit about it because I thought it was going to be Kirk Alyn flying. Well, Kirk would jump up, they would do a cut real fast, and they replaced it with cartoon animation.
And I guess I didn't really mind that much when I was a kid, because Superman was a comic book character. That's sort of like a cartoon. So to me, it really didn't seem like that much of a weird thing, seeing him turn into a cartoon.
Ready?
Always.
Kirk was so good at, like from his ballet, leaping out, that you could almost believe that he was continuing flying.
Superman, I think, one of the things that was really great about it is there were great production values, even though, they were small budgets.
The Superman serials were rich with outdoor shooting and lots of stunts.
There were a lot of work, a lot of running around. They would shoot and set up and shoot, set up, move, move, move.
Sam Katzman had a reputation as producer for never going over budget on any of his productions. Well, how do they do it? Instead of shooting a lot of film and figuring out what to use, they shot very little film and moved on. And the Superman scripts for the serials were this big. This is the script for Atom Man versus Superman. It's far bigger than a feature film, far more setups than any feature film script, and the only way they could do it was getting through 50, 60, 70 setups a day.
Let him have it.
They were a low-budget product, but they had an influence that extends to our culture today.
They were the best-selling serials ever in the history of movies. The box office of Superman and Atom Man versus Superman eclipsed every other motion picture serial.
He saved us again. Isn't he wonderful?
I don't know what I'd do without him.
They were coming, however, at basically the end of an era, because in 1948, if you weren't at the Superman serial at the movie theaters, you might be watching that newfangled thing called television.
The public knows that I'm always glad to cooperate with the police in preventing crime.
Great shows were really rolling out on television. By 1956, serials really came to an end. And who better to say goodbye to serials than probably Superman?